So we'll see.
But do you think are you still a bit tough fight, but you expect him to stop him?
I expect him. I believe he will win the fight. I believe he'll win the fight. How he wins it, we'll see.
The worrying thing is with Moses' style, he could be landing some serious bombs, sharp bombs that do a lot of damage to Dillian early doors, so he could never get into the fight. So yeah, I think it's stacked against Dillian. I'm not saying that Dillian can't do anything in the fight. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying if I'm looking at it from the outside in and just looking at how I see, how I see both men's stages of careers, the styles.
Dillian Whyte has done that. There's a difference. And Dillian Whyte for me looks like a guy that's in shape to go the distance, or to at least to ask questions of this young pup.
The heavyweight division is set for a fascinating clash as the 20-year-old rising star Moses Itauma prepares to face the battle-tested veteran Dillian Whyte. This fight has fans and analysts divided, and for good reason. It represents both a generational test and a stylistic clash that could define the future of heavyweight boxing. Frank Warren, who has invested heavily in Itauma's career, made his prediction clear.
What is your forecast for this fight?
I think he's gonna be in a tough fight. I know he's got the punch power to hurt and stop Dillian Whyte, but I also know that Dillian Whyte also has the punch power to cause damage. And the one thing with Moses at the moment is that's not been tested. So we'll see.
But do you think are you still a bit tough fight, but you expect him to stop him?
I expect him. I believe he will win the fight. I believe he'll win the fight. How he wins it, we'll see. For me, beating him is a big thing.
Right.
However he does it, and I want to see the other side of him as well. I want to see him. I want to see him in a tough 12-round fight where he comes through it and boxes his way through it. He's not a one-trick pony. He can box, but as I say, this is a tough one. This is going to be. This is a fans' fight.
Yeah, it's a great fight.
That's what it is. It is a fans' fight.
Yeah. He believes Moses will win, but admits it won't be easy. He points to Dillian's power, his proven ability to hurt opponents, and the danger he still carries. Still, Warren sees Moses as the future of the division and expects him to handle the pressure and come out on top. Boxing analyst Aid Oladipo, however, highlights a factor many fans didn't expect: Dillian Whyte's transformation. In training footage, Whyte looks sharper, leaner, and in the best condition we've seen in years. His physique has drawn comparisons to the shape he carried back in 2018.
All of a sudden, people have seen the shape that... I saw a video, which I'm guessing you guys have seen as well, of Dillian Whyte hitting the heavy bag and doing a bit of shadow boxing. He looked incredible. Dillian Whyte, me and G-Man did the look back, didn't we? Dillian Whyte versus Chisora. And Dillian Whyte looked in incredible shape there. And I was thinking, if he can get close to that, he's close to that. He's close to that. Dillian Whyte in his last few fights has been around the 260 mark. I think it might have even been heavy for a couple. I think he looks low 250s. And all I can ask from a fighter, this is why I get so pissed off with Martin Bakole, just get in shape. Skill's skill. You're not going to change a fighter from fucking where you are to Muhammad Ali. I'm not asking for that. Just get in shape. Dillian Whyte has ticked that box. And he's like, okay, if you think I'm going over to Saudi Arabia just to get smoked by this 20-year-old, we'll see. That's what I'm taking from the shape I'm seeing him in, because he looks incredible. And also, when he's firing out his jab in that little shadow boxing, his arms are so long. Dillian Whyte, compared to his body structure, he has overly long arms. What I'm getting at is that Dillian Whyte can box a bit as well, He's not just a brawler. He's been tagged as this brawler. He can box a little bit. Is he a better boxer than Moses? No. But that jab could be key. Jab's always key, right? We always talk about it. But one thing I see with Dillian Whyte being in this shape is that he's saying, if I can take this young boy past 6, we're going to go into deep waters that this young boy's never been before. And it's all well and good Moses saying, I'm sparring 10 rounds, I'm sparring 12 rounds. And, I was on TalkSport when he mentioned this yesterday. Fighting 10 rounds is different. Fighting 12 rounds is different. Dillian Whyte's done that. And look, sometimes Dillian Whyte's blown out of his arse. Sometimes Dillian Whyte's been beat in those 12-round fights. But Dillian Whyte has done that. There's a difference. And Dillian Whyte, for me, looks like a guy that's in shape to go the distance, or to at least to ask questions of this young pup.
When he brutally stopped Lucas Brown. Aid believes this version of Whyte has the tools to push Moses further than anyone has before, especially with his long jab and ability to drag opponents into deep waters. For Aid, the key is simple: if Whyte can take Moses beyond 6 rounds, the fight could look very different. Former fighter and analyst Lawrence Oakley echoes that sentiment. He notes that while Moses has passed every test so far with flying colours,
I know, relax. Moses has been performing under the bright lights, but what I'm saying is, it's still so early and he's got a lot to prove. Up until this point, I can't argue. He's passed every test with flying colours, but the problem is, he's passed so easily, he's missed out on valuable lessons along the way, and he's now got a very experienced veteran in front of him in Dillian Whyte, who's been at world level. Everybody's written Dillian off, but recently, seeing interviews and seeing training footage, I'm liking what I'm seeing. I've got to be honest, my mind's starting to shift. Let's take a look and discuss the key takeaways.
I don't think I've ever seen you be this big an underdog in a fight. You are like 1-14.
Dev asked Dillian, how does he feel being the underdog?
And that's what makes you dangerous. As an underdog, you're underneath, you get up at them testicles and lock onto them, and it's game over.
It's crazy really, because like I said, he's fought at world level, fighting the likes of Povetkin, Fury, Chisora, AJ, Parker, the list goes on. But in sports, you're only as good as your last performance. In Dillian's last fight, he looked terrible, putting it politely.
Has he put something in you? Because like your last few fights, Ebenezer like instilled a fear, not...
No man has put anything in me. Pause this.
Dillian does make me laugh, dark humour. But maybe that says more about me. He says it the way it is. There's no sugarcoating. Dev says, is this the biggest risk he's took in his career? Which again is madness.
All of them has been massive, because you think no one's ever had me as the favourite. Think of one fight that was the favourite. Just think.
Dillian's right. He's always the underdog. It's nothing new.
How do you reflect on your fight with Tete?
It was what it was. Listen, I've been walking the long, lonely, dark road for 3 years.
This is the thing. People forget that fighters go through things outside of the ring which affect the performance, but us fans only judge the performance. At the end of the day, fighters are human, they're not robots.
Then that fight for me was ask myself a question. Can I take a good walk and push through? Can I force myself to put the jabs in? Can I...
He admits he wasn't in great shape, but that fight for him was about dipping his foot in the water and seeing if he still got it and still wants it.
I had a few injuries and stuff going into the fight, but it is what it was. But that fight reignited the...
None of those victories have come against a fighter with the experience and ring IQ of Dillian Whyte. Moses has looked dominant, but the concern is that he may have missed valuable lessons because his fights have been too easy. Against Whyte, there will be no shortcuts, he'll have to earn it. Dillian himself embraces the underdog role. Asked how it feels to be a massive betting outsider, Whyte laughed, saying he's always been underestimated. Throughout his career, whether against Chisora, Parker, Povetkin, or Joshua, he was rarely the favourite. This fight is nothing new. Whyte insists he's been walking a long, dark road for 3 years, and now, finally, he feels reignited. The training footage supports his claim. This is not a fighter cashing out, but a man determined to make one last statement. Observers who doubted him after his sluggish recent outings have been surprised by the sharpness and energy he's shown in camp. His footwork...
That since like late 18, right? I remember him knocking out Lucas Brown. When he knocked out Lucas Brown, he looked like he was in the best shape of his life. He looks similar or better now, which is very impressive. And I think like Terrence Crawford, people are now looking at Dillian Whyte. You know, seeing is believing. You know, when we see results, we start believing in those results. I think now people understand that Dillian Whyte has taken this very seriously. He's been out of the ring for a long time. His last 2 opponents quit. Tete and Hammer, they both quit. And I think that Dillian, this is his last hurrah. If it's his last hurrah, if it's his last time to shine, he has nothing to lose. Why not go out with a bang? Why not go in the best shape possible? Why not do what you're supposed to do in training camp? Okay, because you can't really predict what happens in that ring except you and that other guy. It's up to you or that other guy. But in training camp, you have a team around you. You have determination, you have motivation, you have discipline more than likely, okay? And I think that Dillian Whyte is looking great, bro. He is looking great. He doesn't have the unbalanced body type like you normally see him. He's too big upper body, legs are small. You know what I mean? He's all off balance because of the imbalance of his body. But I do think that Dillian Whyte will come in to make a splash, and this is how you're supposed to look if you intend on doing it. I love the way he looks. He looks great. He looks in shape. He looks like he's ready for a battle. That's what it's about.
Work, jab, and body balance look improved, his combinations crisp, and his conditioning among the best of his career. Fans who wrote him off are beginning to reconsider. But while Whyte may be rejuvenated, the pressure sits squarely on Moses Itauma's shoulders. At just 20 years old, he's already being hailed as the next great heavyweight. And that brings its own challenges. In boxing, reputations can crumble overnight. A close or uninspiring win against Whyte could cast doubts over whether he's truly ready for the sport's elite. In the eyes of many fans, he needs to look spectacular. Anthony Yarde, who has followed Itauma since his teenage years, has no doubts. He insists Moses is the real deal and destined for greatness. From his fast hands...
So much pressure now on this young man's shoulders. Like, if he doesn't look spectacular against Dillian Whyte, all of a sudden people are like, That's how fickle boxing fans are. We're so fucking fickle. If he doesn't look great against Dillian Whyte, we'll be like, he's almost got to ice Dillian Whyte for everyone to say, yeah, he's the king. You know what I mean? For him to continue that trajectory, because he is like a fucking rocket ship at the moment. Going on the eye test, I think he has absolutely everything. Going on what people tell me about him, I think he has absolutely everything. Like, I hear the sparring stories. Guys, there is so much I could share on this channel that I don't. So much. But I hear the sparring stories. I know who he's hurt. I know who he's wobbled. I know all those things. And he's a bad man. Honestly, he's a bad man. I look at him, it's funny. I don't feel like I'm interviewing a 20-year-old. Do you know what I mean? He just is a man, isn't he? But yet he's a kid. And being a kid isn't a bad thing in the sport of boxing, because there is that kind of fearlessness, like this youthful exuberance, speed. You're not damaged goods. You haven't been through the trenches. The politics of boxing hasn't made you fall out of love with the sport yet. So as much as people say he lacks experience, sometimes lacking experience in those things I've just mentioned can't be too bad.
And sharp footwork to his composure and ring IQ, Yarde sees qualities that remind him of past legends. Dave Coldwell, another respected trainer, agrees, pointing out that Moses's combination of speed, accuracy, and power could prove devastating against a fighter like Whyte, who has absorbed plenty of punishment over the years. Inside Whyte's camp, however, the approach is clear: don't play into Moses's hands. They know Itauma is dangerous early.
Moses Itauma, his first headline event, takes on the body snatcher Dillian Whyte. You first on this. How good is Moses? I mean, you must hear the stories that everyone seems to hear about the sparring and all that. How good is Moses when you're watching him?
I've seen Moses, and I've said this from the beginning, from when he was 18, 19. This guy, he's it.
He's it.
He is it. He is it. This is my opinion. It's boxing. I know it's pressure and all these kind of things or whatever, but he's it.
Why?
He's got a skill set, fast hands, footwork. From what I've seen, he's got a chin. Not that you need to be getting hit with these wild shots, because clearly you've done something wrong if you got hit. Good jab, you know. For me, in my opinion, he's it.
With speed and explosive power. Instead, the plan is to make him work, frustrate him, and take him into later rounds where experience and endurance could tilt the balance. Whyte's team believes if he can survive the storm, he can turn the fight in his favour. Even some of Whyte's former trainers have expressed concern, admitting that while Dillian has the experience to upset the odds, Moses represents a very real threat. His youth, ambition, and technical skill make him a dangerous opponent for anyone. This is not just another fight, it's a crossroads. For Whyte, it could be one last hurrah. For Moses, it's the chance to prove he's truly on a different level. And Moses himself. He carries a confidence that borders on audacity. In interviews, he's gone so far as to claim his skill set and ring IQ are already superior to Alexander Usyk's, though he admits he still lacks experience in the later rounds. He knows that question mark remains, and he wants fights like this to prove he can handle them. So we're left with a fascinating picture. On one side, a young phenom who believes he's destined to be the best in the world. On the other, a hardened veteran who has seen it all and is now in the best shape we've seen in years, determined to ruin the script. This isn't just another fight, it's a true fan's fight. Experience versus youth. Old guard versus new blood. A man fighting for legacy versus a man fighting for validation. One way or another, when Moses Itauma and Dillian Whyte step into the ring, we'll find out whether the future has truly arrived, or if the old lion still has one last roar left in him. Please like and subscribe my YouTube channel.